Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Coach Steve Show podcast, where we talk to football coaches all over the country. We recap college football, NFL, college basketball, a little bit of NBA here and there. And we, recap all of that, especially Illini sports and Chicago Bears sports that I am a fan of. Unfortunately, I know if any of that interests you or you like any of the other episodes, please hit the subscribe button and the like button on the Coach Steve Show YouTube channel. If you're listening to audio form, the podcast can be found anywhere you can listen to your podcast: Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, literally anywhere. Please follow it, give it a review, rate it, be a friend, tell a friend, all that good stuff. It really helps the podcast, helps out the algorithm that I can't understand. But I appreciate anybody that listens. So if you please do that all for me, I would be greatly appreciated. The podcast is also brought to you by the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network. If you head up to bellyupsports.com, check out all the blogs, podcasts there. There's content there for anybody out there, literally anybody. Betting season is in full swing. If you head over to mybookie.ag, that's the place you want to make your same-game parlays, in-game bets, money lines, all that good stuff. You know, college football still going on. We're slowly wrapping it up. We've got some big games coming up. NFL is still going strong. College basketball is just getting warmed up. NBA is getting warmed up. If you go to mybookie.ag and use the code BELLYUPFANTASY, all one word, it's going to double your first deposit. Yes, that means free money, and everybody loves free money. So BELLYUPFANTASY, all one word, it's going to double your first deposit. Podcast is also brought to you by Coach Stone Football, and it's back to the basics, books, and drills. If you go to CoachStoneFootball.com and check out all of his books on football drills, defense, offense, game planning, practice planning, and much, much more, you're never going to need to look up another drill again. He's got so many books. An example one right here is Coach Stone, his Back to the Basics Football Drill Manual, Volume 1 on offense. He's got different volumes. If you're watching the video version, you can see his first book's over 500 pages. The rest, they go up into the 300s, I believe, or 100, so 142. And like this one for offense, for example, sled work. For your offensive lineman, you're getting on the sled work. It just gives you different drills. It tells you how to maybe organize formations. And there's different spots in the book for coaches' notes if you're going through. So there's just stuff there for everybody. Youth football for high school, just all different types of drills that you could think of, split up individually. So go to CoachStoneFootball.com and check out all the books like this one for offense. We thank Coach Stone for sponsoring the podcast. Go check it out, CoachStoneFootball.com. And if you're looking for an energy drink to help with that midday pick-me-up, but you don't want the crash happens after about an hour or so, well, I've got the best place for you. Go to SwiftLifestyles.com to get just that. It's a clean nutritional drink for any part of your day. They're also going to sponsor a gamer. So if you're on Twitch or you think about getting on Twitch, think you're really good at games, they want to talk to you. If you go to SwiftLifestyles.com, use the code Coach Steve Show, all one word. You're going to get 50% off your order, and it comes in a tub. It doesn't come in like an energy drink can. It comes in a tub. You get 30 servings. There's a shaker you can buy on there for a good price. Go check it out. I recommend the bubblegum flavor. It's delicious. SwiftLifestyles.com, Coach Steve Show, all one word. It's going to get 15% off your order. Thank you so much for checking that out. Diving into today's episode, the game happened this weekend. And what I mean by the game is Michigan versus Ohio State, and they've been playing for hundreds and hundreds of years. Seems like hundreds and hundreds of years the way they talk about it. But Michigan played Ohio State at Michigan in Ann Arbor, sold out crowd, over 100,000 people. Snowing, looked beautiful. Jim Harbaugh is 0-5 against Ohio State coming in. Michigan hasn't beat Ohio State since 2011. Michigan's playoff hopes are on the line. Ohio State's playoff hopes are on the line. Ohio State's number 2 in the college football playoff at the time. Michigan's number 5. And they're also battling for a berth at the Big Ten championship game. Michigan has not won the Big Ten title since Jim Harbaugh got there. They haven't even played in the Big Ten championship game. They have not ended in the college football playoff. They've been up there. They've been ranked number 3. They've been ranked pretty high, but they have not been there. So a lot right on the line. Jim Harbaugh redid his contract coming into the year to take less money, more incentives. But you always hear them talk about no matter what they do during this game, no matter what they do during the season, this is the game they talk about. You could go 11-1, and that one, if you lose to Michigan or Ohio State, it's almost a failure, which is crazy to me. That's getting a little insane. Because as an Illinois fan, if we went 11-1, man, we would build a statue. If Coach Bielema goes 11-1 here in a couple of years, there will be a statue of him, just a statue. So it's crazy how this rivalry game is huge, how big it is for these schools. They hate each other. They call the team up north. They don't even call it Ohio State. They say Ohio. Not to confuse with Ohio University. Shout out to Coach Rudolph, offensive line coach at Ohio University. Go Bobcats. But they call the team up north. They call it Ohio. So coming into this game, Jim Harbaugh's got a lot. He's 0-5. They are 10-1 coming in to this game. 10-1. To me, that's a successful year. But already, because of the one game that they lost, was to Michigan State, and they ruined that might ruin their playoff chances. But it's already been talked about. If Jim Harbaugh loses this game to Ohio State, could he be fired after all of the debacle of last year? Coming into the end of the year, he should be fired. But they redid, his contract was up. He was going to be let go. Jim Harbaugh has gone through the ringer with this job. Now, money, he's got money. He's got money from coaching at Stanford. He's got the NFL money from coaching at the 49ers. He's got Michigan money. They've paid him a lot of money to coach here. So money to him is not an issue, but he played at Michigan. He loves Michigan, wants to beat Ohio State really bad. So coming in, Ohio State's on a roll. They lost to Oregon early in the year, and ever since then they've gone on a roll. They've had a couple close games. C.J. Stroud has been playing into a Heisman form. They've been passing the ball all over the place. So Michigan's coming in with everything on the line, everything for them to lose. Ohio State's beating the brakes off of them since 2011. Jim Harbaugh's 0-5. Talking about firing Jim Harbaugh after this game. Oh, he's not the coach. You got Fibaum, or whatever you say his name, saying Jim Harbaugh will never, ever, ever, ever beat Michigan. Nobody giving them a shot. Nobody. Jim Harbaugh's not the guy. I've got news for you. I said it in the podcast preview a couple episodes ago. Jim Harbaugh's a good coach. It's just like he doesn't know how to not coach football. Coaching changes coming into this year. Could they come in and get this done? Well, by God, they did. Snowy field, looked beautiful. That is Big Ten football at its finest. Just this great scene of the sea of blue and yellow. Now, I came in rooting for Michigan. I hate Michigan basketball. Will never root for Michigan basketball, no matter the circumstances. They can never win a game the rest of their life, and I wouldn't give a rat's ass about it. Michigan came in and said, we are going to be physical with Ohio State. We are tired. We are sick and tired of hearing about how we cannot beat them. The players are sick and tired of not getting this done for Jim Harbaugh. They're tired of people talking about their coach this way. They are done with it. Just absolutely done with it. They got rid of their defensive coordinator, Don Brown, which people didn't like, and I didn't like. They hire a young, in their 30s, defensive coordinator. Jim Harbaugh took a step back and said, you guys do your thing. I'm going to be the CEO. I'm going to focus on recruiting. I'm going to focus on the boosters. I'm going to do this. Focus on the practice planning. I'll be with you in the game planning. You guys do your thing. I'm just going to be the guy in the khaki pants with my football cleats on. Michigan comes into this game, and I said, how do you beat Ohio State? You have to come be very physical and punch them in the mouth. And most of the time, Ohio State can handle and punch you right back, unless you're Alabama. They can't do that. But if you come punch them in the face, and I said this, I said, you're going to have to come run the football. McNamara's come in and pass like crazy. But I said, if Michigan can come in and run the ball, and they're going to get 3 to 4 yards a pop, 3 or 4 yards. One, you're probably winning because you're going to keep moving the ball. But with how good McNamara has been passing it, I said if you're able to do that, it will open up the pass game and play actions. I said that coming in. This is how you're going to beat Ohio State. Defensively, you've got to make C.J. Stroud uncomfortable. You've got to be physical. You've got to get the D-line pushing them, moving them around, everything else like that. It kind of sounds like sometimes I know what I'm talking about because Michigan did just that. First of all, Shane Haskins had an amazing game. This is probably why they won. He had 28 carries for 169 yards and 5 touchdowns. Ohio State couldn't tackle him, even if he just stood there and waited. They had another running back, Blake Corum, 6 carries, 87 yards. So right there, you got 2 guys. I mean, he only had 6 carries, but 169 yards and 87 yards, which opens up the pass game. McNamara didn't have a passing touchdown, but you didn't have to. 13 of 19 for 159 yards. Now, some are like, oh, that doesn't sound good. 13 of 19 is pretty damn good. You don't need to when you're running the ball. Michigan came out and they did I need to get some film on their offense because they came out and ran old school stuff from shotgun. They'll run their king or their queen formation, which is where you have a quarterback, H-back or fullback, whoever you want, to the side of him, and then a running back behind in a pistol look. But sometimes most of the time, that guy's standing up in a 2-point stance with his hands on his knees. They'll have this guy down in a stance. Now, you see that sometimes in high school, but you don't see it a lot in college. But by God, Michigan ran it. They came out in those sets. They came out in tray sets where, to me, you got 3 receivers on one side, a tight end on the other with his hand down in the dirt. To me, that's a tray formation. Some call that trips closed because it's closed on the other side with trips on one side. I call it tray. You can call it whatever you want. They did a lot of tight end formations. They did a lot of that. Some unbalanced because they said, listen, we're going to run right at you guys. We're going to be physical with you. And then on their defense, those 2 defensive ends, man, they got after C.J. Stroud. They went after him. You don't see it very often. Ohio State offensive line just get bullied. And then their defensive backs able to keep up with their wide receivers and be physical. Now, with an Ohio State offense, you're used to seeing big-time plays, like a huge pass, huge run. They had a couple of decent runs, but you didn't really see these huge plays down the field. Michigan's defense said, if our front 6 can get pressure and move C.J. Stroud around, we're going to keep everything in front of us. And that's what they did. They wanted them to throw shorter passes and fly up the next play, and hopefully they drop some passes. So game planning, when you're game planning for defense and you want everything in front of you, there's a part of you that's going to make the hope and prayer that they're going to drop some passes. Whether they're so open that they don't see it, the routes are so short, maybe the receivers don't know they're getting thrown the ball to. You if you can hurry the quarterback, even if it is like a C.J. Stroud playing a Heisman Trophy level, that they're able to disrupt him, move him, make him pass sooner than what he wants. That's kind of what you're hoping for when you're playing a defense, whether it's a 2 high shell or 1 high or 4, and you're playing a cover 4, you're playing palms or whatever it is to keep everything in front of you. That's kind of the game plan. And Michigan came in and said, our defensive backs can come up and make the play. Our linebackers are fast enough to scrape over and make the play. We're going to have our defensive ends squeeze C.J. Stroud in. Our linebackers are good enough to come up and make the tackle. And that's what they did. It was great. Now, they had also come in, and I said, Michigan's defense is going to have to be okay with them giving up yards. And they gave up yards. You're not going to hold Ohio State to the low numbers that you probably want unless you're Alabama. So Michigan's defense came in, like I said, they needed to do those things on offense. I said they need to come out and punch them in the mouth, run the ball. I didn't know Shane Haskins was going to have 5 rushing touchdowns, but those were the keys to victory. And that's what Michigan had to come in and do. You know I look like an idiot, but it's great when sometimes I know what I look like I'm talking about. So Michigan finally, since 2011, and for Jim Harbaugh, who was 0-5, comes out of Ann Arbor with a victory, 42-27. 42-27. Because they were the more physical team. That's the thing with Ohio State. There's times where they're the bully and they're going to be physical. Then there's times when another team is just as physical. It's one of 2 things. It brings the best out in Ohio State, or they just stop. Michigan converted a lot of big 3rd downs, 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 1s. Converted them. 2nd and shorts, converted them. Ohio State's defense allowed them to happen. Michigan's offensive line just pushed around Ohio State's defensive line. That's what it came down to was the trenches. It came down to running the football and being physical, running through tackles. And then seeing holes where running backs are like, you know what? I'm just going to run through it. Because when you run zone and Michigan runs a lot of GT or GH, like different counter stuff, not blocking people to get them to fly up the field on counters and get them to front up the field, which is interesting to see. Those are just different running schemes that they did. And it worked well for them. And like I said, the defense was okay giving up yards. C.J. Stroud, 34-49, 394 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, he's going to get his. Jackson Smith, their wide receiver, had 127 yards receiving. Garrett Wilson had 119 yards receiving. Chris Olave had 88. So, like, Michigan said, okay, you're going to get yards. We're going to keep everything in front. We're going to keep you at the end zone. And they just, they did exactly what I said they needed to do. Time of possession was pretty close, 31 minutes for Ohio State, 28 for Michigan. Michigan only had the one turnover. Yards, Michigan actually had more yards, 187 to 458. But it was the third downs. Ohio State was 8 of 18. Michigan was 5 of 8. So those 5 big, there was two, I believe, in the first quarter in the first drive. And then after that, they just had to convert the big ones. 5 and 8, they were 1 fourth down. They averaged 9.5 yards per pass, 7.2 yards rushing. And that defensive line had to show up. Like, everybody just had to show up. So it was great for Michigan. Congratulations, Jim Harbaugh and Michigan. I'm so happy because I do not like Ohio State whatsoever. So congratulations to them. They finally did it. They were physical. They punched them in the mouth. Ohio State couldn't handle the physicality. They couldn't match them with that, with being motivated. I don't think Ohio State overlooked Michigan by any means because they understand how big this game is. I just think they underestimated how bad Michigan wanted it and how they were going to punch, how physical they were going to be. I think that's what they overlooked or did not anticipate that. But I did not think they overlooked Michigan. They know to not overlook the game. But this does shake up all over college football. And we'll discuss everything later on about all the games that have happened and what's happening. But this in particular did shake up the college football playoff big time. But before we dive into that, coaches, do you have a young kicker or a developing kicker that you want to reach the end zone every single time, but you're having a hard time getting him to the end zone every single time? Believe it or not, it may not necessarily be the mechanics. It may be the kicking tee. Yeah, the kicking tee. I have the perfect kicking tee for you to help him get to the end zone, and it's Launchpad Kickoff Tee. The old school orange tees, the flat ones you see like the NFL, that's not going to get it done. These are designed and studied as flaps on the side. And when you order one, it's going to come with a manual to help you diagram, to find the sweet spot of the football, to figure out how to kick it, onside kicks, whip kicks, everything. And it's going to tell you how to strategically place it and practice it. And I promise you order this tee, I promise you it's going to get the ball into the end zone more consistently, help with onside kicks, and help with squib kicks. Again, that is Launchpad Kickoff Tee. It is legal for NCAA and NFHS high school. It is legal. So if you go over to launchpadkickoff.com/CSS, check out all the tees. So again, launchpadkickoff.com/CSS. And if you want to buy one at checkout, use the code CSS. You will save 10% off when you buy one. Now, if you buy the 2-pack, you're going to save about 20%. Then they've got a 4-pack. If you use the link, use the code for that 4-pack, you're going to save money. They're going to give you that 4th one free. So you're buying the 3 and you're going to save money. They'll give you that 4th one free. I promise you it's going to help your kicker. Again, launchpadkickoff.com/CSS and use the code CSS at checkout to save 10% or more on your order today. Football coaches, for your linemen, are their helmets getting scuffed up during inside run period all the time? If so, there's a way to protect those shells and reduce the repetitive blows you guys are taking each and every week. It is Guardian Caps. Guardian Caps reduces all those blows 20 to 33%. It's really focused on helping the big guys out in the trenches. You need those guys to win. And they're taking a lot of blows. This is going to help them a lot. It is worn by 5 NFL teams and over 200 plus colleges, such as Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, Washington, and Penn State. Big-time Power 5 schools. Check this out at guardiansports.com/guardiancaps. Use that website or the link in the description below. Use the code 15OFF. It's going to get you 15% off your order, whether you're buying an individual one or a bulk item. Use the code 15OFF at guardiansports.com/guardiancaps, and it's going to get you 15% off your order. We thank Guardian Caps for sponsoring the podcast. So with Michigan beating Ohio State and other things that happen in college football, but this one in particular is going to shake up the top 4. Now, Alabama came away with a win against Auburn, and we'll talk about it later on. in another episode. Now, where are you going to rank? So all over college football, I want to give you my top 4. Now, Cincinnati came away with a win. They were number 4. Alabama came away with a 3 overtime win versus Auburn. Ohio State lost to Michigan, and Georgia beat the brakes off of Georgia Tech. The door is open for Notre Dame to make the playoff. They were number 6 behind Michigan at number 5. Notre Dame won big over Stanford. Now, that's not a huge – it used to be a huge win, but Stanford's only won 3 games this year. They're not quite what they were, but they won big. Oklahoma State was number 7. They beat Oklahoma in a crazy game, which we'll talk about in another episode full, but they won. So now what's going to be your top 4 or top 6 or 7? The door is open for Notre Dame because right now what's probably going to happen is Michigan is going to flip-flop with Ohio State because that's a big-time win. So what's probably going to happen, Georgia's always going to be number 1. Michigan's going to be number 2. They're going to flip-flop. And I think Alabama's going to stay at number 3, and Cincinnati's going to be number 4 because I can't see them putting Cincinnati over Alabama no matter what happened. And what's probably going to happen is number 5, Notre Dame, and number 6 is Oklahoma State. That's probably what's going to happen. For me and my top 4, I think it needs to be Georgia number 1. I am fine with putting Michigan at number 2. They deserve it after the way they beat Ohio State. And the way Alabama's been playing. I don't want Nick Saban coming after me. I'm just saying. Just watching from the beginning of the season coming down. Keep Alabama at number 3, Cincinnati number 4. I think that 5th spot needs to be Oklahoma State because Oklahoma State beating Oklahoma, to me, is a better win than Notre Dame beating Stanford. It's just a way better thing. Stanford had a couple wins here, but it's Oklahoma. Oklahoma's number 10 in the college football playoff ranking. I think that's a way more impressive win to beat Oklahoma, who fights to win the Big 12 all the time, makes the college football playoff. I think you need to just keep Notre Dame where they are. I know they're going to be number 5, and I'm telling you right now, if Alabama loses to Georgia in the SEC championship game, they are going to kick Alabama out because they got 2 losses, and they're going to put Notre Dame in. I'm telling you right now, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. But the college football playoff is going to get crazy because if you think about it, if Alabama loses to Georgia, they're 2 losses. Michigan loses to Iowa in the Big Ten title game. Well, there's 2 losses. Are you going to put Cincinnati up at number 2? That's crazy. Then who's going to take the 3 and 4 spot? They're probably going to look at Notre Dame and say they've got 1 loss, even though they're going to take the week off here for the conference titles. They're probably going to put them in there. So who gets the next spot? Probably put Notre Dame at number 3, to be honest with you. So who gets the 4th spot? If Oklahoma State beats Baylor in the Big 12 championship and Michigan and Alabama both lose, here's your playoff. It might be Georgia, Cincinnati, Notre Dame, or Oklahoma State there, and then Notre Dame, Oklahoma State at number 4. That is insane. Some people think, I do, maybe a 2-loss Alabama should still be in the playoff, but that would just open up a whole nother thing. And again, if this doesn't show that we need a top 25 playoff, a top 12 playoff thing, I don't know what will ever show this to the committee, but it's about to get insane. Especially if you've got a bunch of 2-loss teams, because Oklahoma State loses, there's 2 losses. So who are you going to put in there? Baylor would have a couple losses. Ole Miss has got a couple losses. So if a lot of teams lose, you could see where it's going to be like a Georgia, Cincinnati, because if they win, they'd be undefeated. Georgia would be undefeated, so Georgia, Cincinnati. You could possibly still see Alabama in there with 2 losses if everybody else loses, and then they're going to put Notre Dame in because they've got 1 freaking loss. It could still happen. It could still be exactly what I said, except moved around. If Michigan loses and Alabama lose, they still might just keep them in the top 4. It still could be Georgia, then it'd be Cincinnati, Alabama, Michigan, with 2 losses because of who they've beaten. Now, what's going to hurt Michigan is losing to Iowa. But then Iowa's case is going to be, well, wait a minute. We're the Big Ten champs. We just beat Michigan. They beat Ohio State. Should we get in there? Is Iowa going to jump up all the way up there? Things are about to get insane. Insane. But until all that craziness part happens, the craziness that we have right now is I think the top 4 is going to be Georgia. My top 4 should be Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Cincinnati. Now, I think it's going to be that way no matter what. It's just going to be however they place them. I think it's those 4. Then to me, I think you got to put Oklahoma State at number 5, Notre Dame number 6. I could see them putting Notre Dame at 6, Oklahoma State at 7, just moving them up 1. But the Oklahoma State win to me over Oklahoma is way more impressive than Notre Dame over Stanford. And we've seen this movie before. We've seen this song and dance before. When Notre Dame makes the playoff, nothing goes well for them at all. Now, some TV announcers said that Notre Dame is sneaky good. You know, they look like a college football playoff team. The run game looks good. Their passing game looks good. Nobody's talking about them. Fine. If that's the case, put them in. But they shouldn't be over Cincinnati because they lost Cincinnati, right? So, I mean, Cincinnati's got to move up to number 3 or 2. So put Notre Dame in. Put them in at number 4. Let's put them in at number 4 and have them play Georgia. And let's see how that goes. Georgia would beat the brakes off of Notre Dame. They would beat the brakes off of them. So let's see what happens. But I think those are my top 6. It's about to get crazy. We'll do another episode later on exactly on the rankings and then probably talk about different events, what could happen, what could lead up to what, how crazy we could do all that. We'll do that in another episode. But that wraps up this episode. We want to discuss the Michigan versus Ohio State game. It's craziness. It was a good game. Congratulations, Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. You finally did it. Congratulations. Again, check out all the affiliates in the description below. Like and subscribe to the Coach Steve Show YouTube channel. Follow it on the audio versions and everything else. Thank you guys so much for listening. Check out all the other episodes. Check out the weekly episodes. And until next time, this has been another Coach Steve Show episode, and we are signing off.